prove this. I said that I haven't proved that. I said that the rec can prove the fact that he said this. He asked about the motivator, and I said that like this isn't relevant to, or I didn't say, but like I didn't think it was relevant to what I had said because his motivation behind it doesn't change whether or not he proved it. Um, then towards the end, when I was asking clarifying questions on his
Yo,
questions
bitch
he asked
ass nigga,
me,
turn your
Shut
mic
up!
up.
Shut up! Shut up!
yeah, when I was asking like, clarifying questions for his point, he had said he was omniscient. When I asked for proof he was omniscient, he said he wanted to conclude. I don't think he proved he was omniscient, so I don't think it's relevant.
Okay,
That's my
yeah, I'm not gonna
conclusion
lie,
there.
Killers, you lost. You lost. But Itachi, not Itachi, free. We could debate now. I'm gonna take the pro-life position. I say I'm just more propositionally justified in the belief.
Whoa!
Shut the fuck up!
Lil RT, shut up.
Oh my god!
All right, so we can debate that, but I wanted to ask you because I know you debated. I think who was it Eric on that? Are you still like a substance dualist?
Yeah, I stopped debating that shit, bro. I think the substance dualist stance is like ass. Like, I think there's more explanatory power to the contrary.
Wait, so are you like a dualist at all, or?
No, bro.
Okay,
I'm a reflective cock physicalist.
reflexive thought. Okay, sure. Do you want to debate then on? We can debate on abortion then because I'm agnostic on abortion, but I do think that there are plausible arguments for both positions. So we can debate
Right.
on, we can
I'll
debate
just
on
take the
that.
pro-life.
Yeah,
I'll just
sure.
take
Do you
the
want me? Do you want me to defend pro-choice or do you want to defend pro-life?
I'll defend pro-life. Like,
Alright, so then I'm just attacking it. Sure. Go ahead.
okay, so yeah, so for the sake of the recording, my position is just I'm more propositionally justified in the belief that abortion is morally wrong, and the first part of the premise is just going to be if an entity is biologically human, then it has a causal mechanism that will, with very high probability, in absent external interruption, develop traits constitutive of personhood, such as consciousness, rationality, and moral agency. And the justification is given the fucking embryological science, which is like a human zygote contains a complete human genome that directs a self-organized developmental trajectory from conception to maturity, and has a biological process such as the gastrulation and neurulation and just like that, and it unfolds predictably towards capacities like consciousness, like by like 24 to 30 weeks, and rationality, and we have a Bayesian account to justify that threshold.
Is that it for the opening, or do you want to ask one?
That's for P1. That's not the opening.
That's okay. Wait, that was P1?
I said if an entity is biologically human, then it has a causal mechanism that will, with very high probability and absent external interruption, develop traits constitutive of personhood.
Okay, so that's P1. Okay, so P2 is I'm just supposing antecedent and conclusion is the consequence. Okay, got you. So,
Whoa. I can go to P2.
wait, P2 is just like P, and like the conclusion is Q. The thing that I'm asking is
what? Nigga, no, P2 is just a fetus from conception is biologically human.
motherfucker, you made if P then Q, P therefore Q. You made an argument which is modus ponens, which is if this thing is like a biologically human, then it has some causal predicates or some instrumental indispensability to some rationality, right? That is completely fine. Now, because of that, I assume you're saying that this abortion is then going to be immoral. That again, we can get to that later. But what you're saying is if P then Q, P therefore Q. P is just going to be that this thing has these biological properties of a human, and conclusion is just going to be that it has the predicates or is instrumentally indispensable for the rationality. Now I'm asking you, okay, sure. Why does that lead to
the rationality?
For the rationality. So without you letting, for example, fetus go through pregnancy, you cannot get a sentient human being. That is currently to our epistemological access impossible, right? So that is trivially going to be true. Okay.
So can I just clarify real quick? So P1 is established. Look, I got you, bro.
Motherfucker said motherfucker said prove that it's the only way for pregnancy to be the.
Yo, I never. No, not that.
What the fuck? Oh, okay.
So
I'm sorry. Then I get confused.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so P1, okay, if an entity is biologically human, then it has a causal mechanism that will, with very high probability, in the absent external interruption, develop traits constitutive of personhood, such as consciousness, rationality, and moral agency. and a fetus from a conception is biologically human. Therefore, a fetus has a causal mechanism that will, with very high probability, develop personhood traits. From P1 to P2, that's a modus ponens. Not just P1. You're claiming P1 is just a modus ponens.
Okay. So I'm asking.
Any entity with such a mechanism must be treated as
no.
P4.
Hold
Can
on.
I give you the full argument
So,
and
anyways,
then you can attack it, bro? Because
go. Well, actually, go ahead. Go ahead.
Jesus Christ. Okay. P4 is just going to be that any entity with such a mechanism must be treated as a full moral person from the point that mechanism is activated. This is just justified through a universal instantation. And P5 is intentionally interrupting this causal mechanism is morally equivalent to destroying a person. And P6 is abortion intentionally interrupts this causal mechanism, and therefore abortion is morally equivalent to destroying a person. Is P7. And PA is destroying a person is morally wrong, and C, therefore abortion is morally wrong.
Don't get mad. Wait, give me a sec. Give me a sec.
P5, P6, P7 is another modus ponens, and P7, P8, and the conclusion is another modus ponens.
So you said P. Wait, can you repeat from P4? And that's it. Just from P4.
Yeah, I got you. Give me a second. Yeah, P4. Any entity with such a mechanism must be treated as a full moral person from the activation.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so then I'm just gonna ask then this. What is going to be the argument for P4 that just because this thing has the potential, or not even the potential, but just because it has these causal predicates, is going to be treated as like a relevant moral entity? Why should I treat that to be true?
Can you repeat that? So, just because it has like the causal mechanism, why should we treat that as a moral person, right? Or something with more relevance?
No, at least to be precise, I can maybe later when you prove it, I can maybe even be more charitable to that it's morally relevant in that discourse. But I'm asking you, why would it be morally relevant than like harm of like a mother, or not even harm of the mother, but just harm of this actually a conscious entity, to the point where I have an obligation to carry it? What's gonna be that? What's gonna justify that?
I believe the morally harm to the mother is just irrelevant to my type of position I'm taking here. But yeah, I would justify that because all my position is like I can grant the mother's like there's immoral harm to the mother, and that wouldn't hurt my position at all.
Wait, do you realize when I say something like if you say something like, okay, in a case of like where mother gets hurt, right?
Where she gets hurt,
then in that case,
like, gets pain from having the fucking baby. Yeah, I can grant that's also immoral, but that's going to be irrelevant to my type of justification suitable for my position. But
it's not going to be relevant. Wait, it's not going to be relevant. That is something I want to get on. Well, why do you think it's irrelevant before I get on to that?
Cool. So can you just like reiterate my debate proposition?
You mean your argument?
No, my debate proposition. I think it's very distinct from an argument.
Okay, so wait,
so
the proposition you're defending is pro-life.
I'm more propositionally justified in the belief, that abortion is morally wrong. Now, the harm inflicted on the mother is irrelevant to my position because I can also grant that it's still fucking immoral, like, for the mother, like in some cases, where that's irrelevant. But
wait, hold on, wait.
To justify
P4.
Wait. My penis is throbbing.
Wait.
But let me respond to what you said
earlier.
What the
fuck?
So a human zygote. Chill. So then we would have to talk about the identity and the continuity. So a human zygote / embryo or a fetus is not like a potential person, but it's just an actual person at an early developmental stage. Like biologically, we have priors to support this. Like it's a whole living member of the Homo sapiens with a unique like genetic identity. And this development is just continuous. It's just a self-directed process from conception to adulthood. And the moral implication there would be that if a person begins at conception, then interrupting development is killing a person, not preventing one like from existing. And it would have inherent dignity, like not acquired traits. So a personhood is grounded in human nature, like not functional capacities like consciousness. And like consciousness, rationalities, they're just accidental traits, which means they could be lost temporarily during sleep or coma. And what matters is the underlying human substance within the inherent potential to develop those traits or within that causal mechanism. Like take an analogy, for example, like imagine a comatose person is still fucking sleeping. Like similarly, a fetus just lacks consciousness now, but has the natural capacity to develop it. And then would also be avoiding arbitrary lines. Like for example, if a person is based on consciousness / sentience, then we must draw a line. Like for example, 24 weeks for viability / birth, but biology shows no radical jumps, and development is just completely gradual. So conception is the only non-arbitrary point where a distinction human organism begins, and all other thresholds such as like heartbeat and brain activity are just milestones in the ongoing process.
Okay. So there are three things there. One, the way that the mother thing is going to be relevant to the position is maybe you're not making the claim, right, that mother's pain is going to be relevant, but that's still not going to be the justification to why it is actually not relevant. So in the case that I'm talking about it, mother's harm, if it is something, because from what I understood from the argument that you gave, outside of the further clarification, the thing that, or the reason to why you value the fetus or the said thing morally is because of the causal predicates and because of the said biological properties of a human that it encompasses. And now, if it is true that
That's not what I said.
if you value that because of the wait, hold on, you did say that, but I even let you finish all of that, so don't do that. So, in the case of what you said, right? It is true that you would value for the future set experiences and some causal experiences, right? But now, if there's a being who is actually being harmed, and rather who has the potential for some better experiences, but later in the future, why should I accept? The first thing is going to be, why should I accept the future experiences over the actual experiences that I have for today? That's one. The second thing that you said about but who's typing a lot of shit, bro? Tron, mute your mic, nigga. But anyways, yeah. So the second thing about what you said was the human-like properties. The reason why you also value that is because of how I understood it. There are cases of like sentience and like consciousness which are not going to be that relevant because a person can fall into a coma or something. There's a kind of a misconception of the pro-choice view and the pro-sentience view. If you're taking like that specific account, when somebody says like sentience, and when somebody says like consciousness, what they're referring to is kind of like past, present, and future experiences. So if a person falls into a coma like at the age of 65, you're not just gonna disregard their past experiences, right? So that's one. Two, if I have one question also for you. If it is true that you also value it because of its human-like properties, and that kind of weighs in the conjunction to why you value the fetus, if there is in a hypothetical where this human is not going to become sentient at all and is going to die when it becomes a baby or some shit like that, you know this, right? But it's still a human or something like that. Would you still value it in a way that you would treat it as a moral or relevant moral entity? Yeah, you can respond now.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, yeah, so for the potential shit you brought up, that's just like a huge fucking shadow box because P4 just establishes that, well, not P4. Sorry. Yeah, so the P4 critique fails just because I'm not talking strictly about a potential in the radical sense you want to talk about, but it's actual, but in an ongoing biological process. And in response to the other stuff you said, well, what matters morally are just actual conscious states. Like that's a thesis, like pleasure, pain, desires, goals, not mere logical potential for the future states. But a fetus, especially early stage, lacks consciousness, desires, or subjective experiences, and it has no interest to like protect. And the mother is conscious and she experiences pain. I think that's what your critique is. Like for example, pain, fear, bodily violation, and disrupted life plans. And those are real harms happening now. For example, freezing in an embryo like lacking consciousness, it's just gonna be morally trivial compared to torturing like a conscious rat, and the rat's actual suffering matters more than the embryo's potential. Is that what you're trying to say?
Wait, what did you say about the potential? I think you either cut out from me or I cut out. What did you say?
Yeah, so for your critique against P4 about the mother's pain and why that would somehow be relevant to my argument, well, the moral value, for one, stems from the actual, not the hypothetical experiences. And the reason why this matters morally is because when we're talking about actual conscious states like pleasure, pain, desires, goals, we're not talking about the mere logical potential for the future states. Like, for example, a fetus like especially early stage, it lacks consciousness, desires, or subjective experiences, and it has no interests to protect. And the mother is conscious, and she experiences pain, fear, bodily violation, and disrupted life plans, and those are real harms happening now. Like for example, like an analogy for this would be freezing an embryo, like lacking consciousness is morally trivial compared to torturing a fucking conscious rat. And the rat's actual suffering matters more than the embryo's potential. However, for the future experiences, they are not owned by the fetus. So a fetus is not subject that possesses a future. It is a precondition for a future person. And destroying it prevents a person from existing, and it does not harm an existing person. However, before consciousness, there's no continuous self to be deprived of a future, and a future person does not yet exist. To like, for example, if you take if using contraception prevents a future person with great potential, is it immoral? And if not, then why is abortion different? Because both prevent a unique person from existing. And the reason why we prioritize actual, oh sorry. Well, give me a second. This thing is like calling.
Okay. How y'all been, man? What's up, chat? Moxie, what's good, Moxie? Oh, Moxie.
Hey, what's up? Sorry.
Moxie, what's good, man?
Yeah, I was asking a few questions. Like, okay, wait, who's pro-choice and what's being contested?
Yeah, so I'm taking the pro-choice view currently, but basically what I'm contesting is his argument was something like, if this fetus, right, has the set biological traits. So basically the thing that I'm contending, he had a whole argument. The thing that I'm contending about the argument is, he says something like, if this thing has the biological properties of a human, but also has this, which means that it has a set causal predicates, right, which will lead to some form of high rationality or human rationality, then it is true that that's the thing will be valued under like a moral domain, and I'm contesting that, rather in a way which, obviously it is true. That it's going to be valuable at least to some degree, but I don't think it's going to be valuable to the point of like that to justify why a mother would have the obligation, and also to justify in a way that mother should currently be harmed for something which might happen in the future, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think
that is the thing that I'm saying.
I don't even think that even if people granted that it would be valuable, like, okay, I don't know, like I don't think I value it. Or I don't think there's reasons in favor of valuing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
It just seems like.
All right, I'm back.
Seems like we're just doing descriptive ethics rather than like normative ethics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was finna say. So free to go. Yeah, your objection just for P4 just really doesn't refute P4 because your core claims, you have two core claims here, is that the moral value derives from actual experiences, consciousness, suffering, desires, and not abstract potential. And the mother's actual suffering.
Not what I said, but sure.
That's not what you said? Well, that's then literally implied by what you said. But yeah, so P4 just depends on the non-utilitarianism, non-experiential view of moral life. And hold on.
This nigga's sink is tweaking, but
yeah, so it just establishes that person is based on ontology and not functionality. Like, for example, like human beings have intrinsic moral worth by virtue of their nature, like, for example, being a human being, or identity and being a unique organism with irrational potential. Like, for example, take this analogy. Like, a sleeping person has no current experiences. We don't kill them because their nature, a rational being, remains. Similarly, a fetus is a rational rational being in development, and its nature is fixed at conception. And your objection doesn't refute that. It just assumes the moral value comes only from experiences. But the P4's framework, it still just rejects that. So you're not really refuting it. And when I'm talking about potentiality, we're saying it's actual in the metaphysical sense. And the claim here is that the fetus isn't a possible future person. It's just already a person at the immature stage. And the causal mechanism isn't a prediction. It's literally just an active intrinsic property defining its identity. Like, for example, if you have like an acorn in like an oak tree, it's an organism just immature. We don't say it might become an oak. We just say it's an oak growing. And your objection doesn't refute this. It just treats the fetus as a vessel for the future value. But P4 sees it as already embodying that value. Also, moral duties arise from being, not experiencing. So when we have, like, let's say that we have duties to beings because of what they are, like human persons, not because of what they feel. Like, for example, like killing a temporarily comatose person is wrong even if they feel no pain. and thus the mother's suffering that you wanted to bring up earlier. Yeah, it's real, but it doesn't justify killing an innocent person. Just as we wouldn't kill a fucking newborn to relieve parental distress. And your objection doesn't refute this. It just prioritizes suffering relief, which is completely irrelevant to the fucking P4.
Okay.
So I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Typed another fucking thing. So when your objection, because earlier you said the reason why we value human-like properties, I'm kind of misconception. You said when someone says consciousness, when you refer to past, present, and future experiences, you said that we don't disregard the past experiences. If it is true, we value it because of its human-like properties in a hypothetical where this human doesn't become sentient at all. Would you value it like a more relevant entity? However, for P4, like we're talking about the arbitrariness of human nature. So why privilege human potential? If a chimpanzee embryo had the same causal mechanism for consciousness, would it be a person? Like pro-life arguments often assume human exceptionalism without justification. So P4 holds. Yeah, P4 holds. And I'm not done yet. Hold on. If you accept human organisms have intrinsic value from conception, I already justified that. And then if I justify potential personhood and actual personhood, and do these two life outweigh like other concerns, my nigga. And for your other fucking shit, because you said so much fucking shit. What else did you say?
No, yeah, okay, I think you covered majority. I'll take this.
I didn't cover all of it, nigga, because you said
no.
You said all this shit, nigga. Else. You said all this shit. But I'm just getting to the second. I'm just getting to the second paragraph, buddy.
wait, Tron, nigga, hold on. So number one.
Wait, well, let me finish. So for the second paragraph, this is relevant for P4. Well, not what you said, but what my justification is. It justifies P4 because.
Yeah, so we're not gonna do the permabuse shit. I'm definitely not gonna do that. So Tron, you muted you just because you muted me. So what I just told you,
just to be clear, I'm not done. What the fucking what my response?
Wait, Tron. I'll even grant that everything that I said that you didn't cover up is gonna be irrelevant until we get done with this point. Are you fine with that?
Okay, let me respond to all the points you made, and then you could respond back. I don't know why you want to cut me off after one paragraph.
You know what?
Jesus Christ, buddy. Yes. So your challenge is just like completely flawed. If moral status depends solely on biological humanity or potential, then even a non-sentient human or like a corpse, a brain dead body, or like a anaphylatic should be a person.
Okay, I suppose that's it.
This nigga's hold on.
Bro, are you
wrong?
Wait. Okay, so the reason why the P4 is this can be an act because P4 applies only to entities with an unpaired causal mechanism for personhood, and the fetus lacks this mechanism, meaning no brain, no capacity for consciousness. Thus, it's not just merely a potential person. For example, a car engine without sparking plugs isn't like a potential car; it's just a defective assembly. And also, for your fucking second paragraph that I wrote out, that was your response, whatever it was supposed to be. We would have to talk about biological humanity plus functioning potential equals moral status. That's the justification for P4. That's another justification. The reason why that matters is that, well, whether the entirety is a whole, developing human organisms on a trajectory towards sentience, and an embryo with a complete genome and typical developmental like substance such as that is just such an entity.
Are you done?
So just to finish up, the reason why it doesn't undermine P4, it's just that, well, your point is we value human-like properties like consciousness, rationality, because they enable experiences, not because of biological labels, presumably. And for example, if we discovered a non-human entity with identical consciousness to humans, like for example an alien, we grant its rights. And a human without consciousness, advanced dementia or some shit, may lose some rights. However, the biological humanity is gonna be irrelevant here.
Okay, is that it? You stop talking. Okay.
I'm done.
What, nigga? What? Anyways, so that was all rhetorical and all. Unfortunately, it didn't cover up the substance, buddy. But yeah, we can get onto that right now.
Do you want to conclude?
Why the fuck would I want to conclude? I didn't even respond to your points.
Oh, never mind.
Nigga said, do you want to conclude? Motherfucker thought I would fumble under no pressure. That's crazy. But anyways, right? So the first thing that you said was about the past experiences. I'm just gonna disregard it. That was pure gibberish. The second thing you said.
So what you said is gibberish. Okay, I'll take that concession.
No, what you said about that was gibberish, and you started muting me when I interrupted you, right? So don't do that. So, alright. So I said what you said about that was gibberish. Just so we're perfectly clear. But number two, you also misrepresented what I meant by the current experiences. I'm not even saying, you know what? I'm not even saying that there is no more relevant moral talk or some talk on their moral domain when it comes to set fetuses, when it comes to their potentiality. I do agree that potentiality and causal predicates for rationality are going to be relevant in a way in which, right, they are going to be like intrinsically valuable, right? And as so far as that goes, because of their instrumental dispensability, I can grant that. I just don't grant that I should value something in the future over something that happens currently. If it was the case that the mother was going to be harmed, you're saying that there's still obligation, which I don't see. By the way, you never justify the obligation as well, so I'm just gonna disregard that point as well. Another thing you said was, yeah, you still haven't answered my question properly. Okay, so
wait.
What I said was,
you last said, like that last part.
Yeah. The last part. The last part. Right, was. I'm not even saying that there's that potentiality is not gonna, or some predicates of rationality, right? Causal predicates are not gonna be intrinsically valuable. And in fact, I'm saying that because of their instrumental dispensability, there is some value, right? I just don't think that I should value it over the harm that, for example, mother would go through, right? Because obviously, if somebody were to go and grape my fucking mother or something for them to achieve some fucking future experiences or something like that, I'm not just gonna do that. Obviously, I would stop that person for doing it. Or even if it wasn't great, if somebody had to shoot my mother in the leg, right, to, I don't know, get fucking sentience in the future in like 5 days, obviously I would stop that being from shooting my mother. And that is the same thing here. Obviously, I'm not saying that the mother is gonna get shot if she gives birth, but she's definitely going through pain. One of the biggest pains, right, in a case where like in the whole world, like this whole miracle of giving baby to the world, that something is so painful. It is even contested to be the most painful thing in the whole world that a person could go through when it comes to natural causes.
Right. I can grant that.
That's something. Wait, hold on. Yeah. So that is. It's not irrelevant, and I'm gonna explain why. You still haven't. By the way, you still haven't answered the fundamental question, which was, if this person, you know, it is human, right? But you know, for a fact that it's not gonna develop any future experiences, would you still value under a moral domain? And you said something like, I think the same for the coma thing. You said, well, in the coma case as well as in this case, you will value because of its intrinsic human-like properties, right? But that's still, I have no reason to fucking grant that, because then the whole P4 falls apart. Because if you value it for the conjunction,
wait, why does P4 fall apart?
Wait, hold on. Wait, what the fuck are you doing? Hold on. So, to restate it, the reason why the P4 then falls apart is because if you value the conjunction of causal predicates for rationality and its human-like properties, right, and one of the part of the conjunction just doesn't work, then you obviously wouldn't just value the human-like properties in that scenario. But even if you say, okay, well, I'll switch my claim and...
So the reason why P4 falls apart, if you value the conjunction for rationality and human-like properties and one of the conjunctions doesn't work, then what?
No, and one of the things which is supposed to fill out the conjunction is just not there, then it is also true that you wouldn't value it if conjunction isn't there as well. But even if you change your claim back to something like, okay, I'm not gonna say conjunction, but I'm gonna say something like just human-like properties, I still want, that's like an extraordinary claim, like a very, very extraordinary claim, which I think is like a very, very big reductio, because I wouldn't go harm a mother just because you want to preserve something which is not going to be preserved at all. So I want a extreme amount of evidence for that, because I can just call that on Sega's standard. But even if you don't want to go on with that, even if there's some form of thing which I missed, I also want to get on with the point that, yeah, what is gonna be the obligation? I still haven't found the obligation. Maybe it's in the room with me.
This thing is shadow boxing. Holy shit. Oh shit, this is bad. All right, I'll respond to all of this.
Wait, sure, wait, sure. We can conclude. You say you want to conclude? Wait, sure, we can conclude.
After I
We
respond
can
to all of
conclude.
this,
Yeah, we can
after I
conclude.
respond to all this shadow box, then we can conclude. So again, there's no argument as to why the mother's moral harm is relevant to our positions, you dumb fuck retard, because that's simply not the debate proposition. I can grant that there could be harm to the fucking mother, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be relevant for my fucking position. That's a whole type of fucking different dialogue. So when you're saying the reason why P4 falls apart is that if you value the conjunction for rationality and the causal, whatever the fuck, any human-like properties, and one of the conjunctions doesn't work and it doesn't fill out the conjunction, then it's not true and then we shouldn't value it. Not fucking true. The whole fucking shadow box. P4 asserts that any entity with a causal mechanism for personal traits must be treated as a full moral person, but that just requires two conjunctive conditions to hold. The biological humanity, which I already justified, you never even fucking refuted that, and you also granted that, and the functional potential. The entity has an active, unimpaired capacity to develop conscious rationality. Now, that is a metaphysical actual that I'm talking about here, not simply a strict potential in the radical sense that you're talking about.
Okay.
So, I'm not done, bro.
But why did you stop speaking for like 5 seconds, bro? Don't make those such pauses, nigga.
He's looking at his fucking notes, my
Watch your
nigga.
mouth, you Indian ass nigga.
Free. He's looking at his notes. You know you rambled a lot, so he's just scrolling down to his notes.
Well, give me 1 second, Free. Hold on. This fucking...
Yeah, that was very rhetorical. I think Flock said that. Yeah, that was very rhetorical, Flock.
That was not funny. Try again.
I didn't try to be funny, but thank you for calling that out.
Oh, my bad. I just assumed it from your voice tones. My bad.
Hey, shut your bitch ass up.
That's my nigga Noism in the VC, bro.
Yeah, it was good.
No, it's not in the bit. You steady on.
Yeah, so again, I'm just gonna repeat this one more time. So your objection assumes a moral status depends on consciousness, for example, a functional trait. I already put that in the question. And P4 just rejects this, anchoring out a moral personhood and ontological status when entity is. Now what it does, okay, so the human organism is a substance with an identity, and the fetus is not a collection of traits, such as consciousness, rationality, but a unified substance, a living organism of human species, which biologically persists in a continuity that's actual. And this substance has a fixed identity from conception, and its genome directs its development toward mature expression of its future. Thus, the potential here is not the future value added, but the actualization of what it already fucking is. And destroying it means destroying a human at an early stage, not a pre-person. And P4's metaphysical claim here is that personhood trait resides in the rational nature of humans, and not transient states like consciousness. For example, a sleeping person is still a person. A human in a coma retains its rights. Your hypothetical of a non-sentient human fails as a counterexample because a fetus, even if we talk about an amphibolic fetus, which is pathologically impaired, it lacks a structural integrity to actualize its nature. And P4 applies only to organisms with an unimpaired potential. And the typical fetus has this, and an amphibolic one does not. And the moral duty is not to the being, but not its experiences. Your objection here is that we value experiences, presumably, so a being that never attains consciousness has no moral weight. But moral duties arise from what an entity is, a human, not what it experiences. For example, killing a temporarily comatose person is wrong even if they never regain consciousness. And similarly, aborting a typical fetus is wrong because it destroys a human person even if it hasn't experienced anything. So your reductor was so fucking ass and garbage, I'm just going to throw it out the fucking window. Because your reductor here, I believe, is that if we value human-like properties rationally, but one property like consciousness, it's impossible, then we shouldn't value it. So harming the mother to preserve it is absurd. But P4 does not value properties. It values the fucking substance. I hope you understand the distinction here. The causal mechanism isn't valued as a conjunction of traits, but as the evidence... Shut up, bro. God damn. But as the evidence of the entity's nature. And if we take an amphibolic fetus, for example, it lacks this mechanism, but it is not developing a human person, but a defective instance of human biology. Thus, P4 is just going to exclude that example without conceding the consciousness is the root of the value. And the harm to the mother is irrelevant to the fucking moral status, you dumb piece of shit. You Indian fuck. You dumb nigger Indian. Dumb nigger. Because P4 establishes the fetus as a person with a right to live. If we talk about it moral philosophy rights, especially the right to life, if we're talking about Trump utilitarianism, it concerns suffering. We don't kill a crying infant to despair the parents' distress, and we don't kill a terminally ill patient to relieve family burden. So the conclusion here is that the mother's harm with real does not justify killing an innocent fucking person. It's irrelevant to the fucking topic once again. So the reason why that we value it is because it has a human person, even if it dies dies before expressing its nature. We value the life itself, a human organism has an intrinsic worth, and the natural order. So interrupting development violates the theology. Holy fucking shit, the Mars study of the life. And what else you said? Let me just scroll here. My bad. All right, there we go. So you said blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because the life itself is a human organism with intrinsic worth, and interrupting this development violates the theology of human life. And the moral consistency here is just granting rights based on functionality, such as consciousness, and it devalues humans in vulnerable states, like, for example, dementia. And the reason for this is that the fetus right to life is just a negative right, duty not to kill. And the mother's suffering, while tragic, is still a positive claim, duty to aid. And so we'll take negative rights over positive claims in the deontology, holy fucking shit, like a deontological system. So your reductal here, what you wanted to bring up, it only succeeds only if you presuppose that the moral status requires consciousness, but P4 rejects this, grounding the personhood in biological humanity.
Not what I said.
Potential. Okay, if that's not what you said, then we can conclude. You're fucking shit.
Okay, so are you done?
I'm not done, but if that's not what you said, we can really conclude. But to your other stuff that you brought up, I just want to respond quickly. And then,
holy shit, the ramble! Oh my god!
It's not the ramble, nigga. It's what you type, bro. It's not my fault, nigga. You like the ramble, nigga. You like the jargon and shit. Doesn't work though. So your other refutation is ass because it's
that's rhetorical.
It's confusing
the
potential, and equating it to future and suffering without justification. And your objection hinges on two claims: is temporal priority, which is current maternal pain over future fetal value, and moral asymmetry, actual suffering over abstract potential. But P4's framework just rejects both premises fundamentally because your argument assumes the fetal value is future oriented, like something in the future that doesn't happen currently. But P4 already rejects this, and it's just an ontological claim here. The fetus isn't waiting to become a person. It's literally just a person in fucking development. For example, a 5-year-old isn't a potential adult. They are an actual human at an immature stage, and killing them deprives them of their own future. And the mechanism that I was talking about earlier, the causal mechanism, is activated now at conception. That's what it establishes. So if you're not attacking the prior premises that establishes that, then you're not actually attacking P4, because at conception, that self-directed biological process begins, and the zygote's genome actively organizes cell division and differentiation, and the process is intrinsic. I believe you already granted this. Thus, the potential isn't hypothetical like a sperm plus egg. It's just an actualized causal power making the fetus a subject of its rights. And you also rightly note that I can grant that pregnancy involves severe pain, and it's one of the biggest pains in the world. You said that, but the P4 framework here just argues that rights trump utility. So if the fetus is a person per P4, then it has a negative right not to be killed. And we'll have to talk about the maternal suffering. While it's tragic, it's a positive claim to the fucking relief. And the moral principle here is just that negative rights, for example, right to life, override positive claims such as right to avoid pain in most deontological systems. For example, we don't kill a crying infant to relieve parental sleep deprivation or some shit, even if the suffering is fucking real. And the conscious gap you wanted to bring up is fucking irrelevant because your objection confuses conscious suffering with non-conscious entities' rights. And the counter here is that humans in comas lack consciousness but retain its fucking rights. The moral status gap you propose will justify for the reductal harvesting organs from coma patients to save conscious people and killing dementia patients to spare caregivers distress. And why your analogy fails, for example, when you brought up the mother's current pain, actual, versus the fucking fetus's future value, a hypothetical, is that you're just misrepresenting P4.
Is that it?
Yeah, so P4 remains standing because your objection it just confuses potential with actualized identity, not future abstract value. And suffering can't override personhood unless we accept utilitarian ethics, which P4 explicitly rejects. And consciousness isn't necessary for rights, as shown by rights afforded to non-conscious humans. And yeah, you can respond.
Bitch.
You know what? I ain't gonna get mad, bro. I ain't gonna get mad. I'll just. I ain't gonna get mad, bro. I ain't gonna get mad. I'll let it slide. The rhetoric and shit. I ain't gonna get mad.
I'm the one who called you bitch.
Wait. You know what?
Oh, he called you a bitch.
Sure. So
I'm the one who called you a bitch, dumbass.
No.
Hey, fuck you, nigga. Don't ever talk to Free like that little bitch, that little boy. I don't know who the fuck you think you talk to, little nigga.
Get free
You
dick
get
out
wicked
your
in
mouth,
there, little
nigga.
bitch.
Get free dick out your mouth.
Get real wicked in there, bitch.
Wait, hold on. Let me refute this. Thanks, official man. I love you too, man. But I had to continue the debate, man. So, number one,
Right.
Tron, you not only misrepresented the argument, the shit was so fucking ass. I almost started crying through all of that, bro. I am so sorry, man. My tears literally are coming down through my fucking face, man.
Stop it, man. Yeah, shit. Taking the water out your body.
Let's talk about it.
That shit was ass, bro. That shit was that shit was ass. But anyways, bro. This shit was ass. But anyways, bro, oh my god, bro. Anyways, so P1, I didn't even say the potentiality, right? I didn't even say that I value the current experiences. That's why I would terminate the fetus, dummy. I said that I value current experiences over potential experiences in the future. So if they're both human, one has potential experiences and one has future experiences, potential experience and one has current experiences. Obviously, I'm going to value the one with current experiences, right? So that's the claim that I was making. So that's number one. Number two, you said some bullshit about utilitarian ethics. I haven't even mentioned utilitarianism once, right? I haven't mentioned utilitarianism once. You presuppose utilitarianism. That's a complete shadow box. I'm just going to disregard that. Number three, the point about that you brought up for the kid analogy was completely disanalogous because the kid currently is not an adult. It is a human, but it is not an adult. It will become adult in the future, meaning it's an adult in the process, right? But that's not an adult. And that's why you also brought for the oak tree example. That's not an oak tree yet, but it will become an oak tree soon. Those are the terms that you don't understand. Number four, you made a claim about what I value, and you also said that that's what that doesn't refute anything because P4 still stands.
We can conclude, bro. Come on.
That shit broke my ear, bro. No. Just mute that nigga, bro. Mute that nigga. But yeah, thanks. So number one, right? The thing that I value, right? I never said that I don't value fetus intrinsically at all. I even granted you that, but you didn't track that for like 5 times. I grant some moral value to the fetus, but whether I think it's more valuable than the mother's desire when she's getting hurt. And by the way, you didn't even address the example or the analogy that I gave with the mother being shot in the leg thing, right? So that is completely fucking dumb as shit, right? But the thing that I value, or the thing that I would say is more valuable than the thing you value, is a human being with already conscious experiences and the thing which gives it future experiences like this qualia that you fundamentally value, right? The thing that you said about was there is a conjunction with human-like properties. And in the P4, by the way, if the thing has the conjunction with human-like properties and a causal predicate for rationality, then it is true that it will be valued under moral domain. Dummy, I never disagree with that. What you're saying, though, was that if you're taking a pro-life position, obviously you're trying to take like a position that mothers are obligated, or not even obligated, but mothers shouldn't do this thing. Obviously, if something is like morally, in a sense, valuable, terminating it with no justified reason would be immoral. I never disagree with that. But the thing which here is whether mother is justified in doing so. And I think mother is completely justified in doing so. The same way you would be justified in doing so to kill one to save two. That's something that you don't have to be a utilitarianist for that. A normal person, you don't even have to think that it's moral to do so. But you will be justified in doing so. And you wouldn't say that you will be immoral if you had to press a button whether one lives or two live. That is trivially true. I don't even have to explain that. So that is one. The 4, P4 doesn't stand, right? P4 doesn't stand. The thing which you're, or not even that it doesn't stand, but it doesn't follow the conclusion, right? So what your conclusion should be is that mother shouldn't abort the fetus, aka it is immoral for mother to abort, right? That should be your conclusion. Your conclusion is that fetus is going to be morally valuable, right? P4, maybe even if I somehow, yes it is. Oh yeah, we can conclude. Let's conclude. Let's conclude.
If you're done, you can shut the fuck up. So just to clarify for the recording and the entirety of the fucking VC, all my debate proposition is that I'm justifying is that I'm more propositionally justified in the belief that abortion is morally wrong. This is bad. Oh my god. And to respond to the bullshit here, it's because there was, oh my Jesus fucking Christ. Your objection that you just brought up doesn't refute P4 because it presupposes the very premise that P4 denies, that the moral status requires current consciousness, and that's and it fails as a refutation because P4 operates in a fundamentally ethical framework.
I responded to that. Conclude. I responded to that.
Okay. After this, we can conclude. This is a huge fucking. This is a huge
free.
So that doesn't refute P4. It just simply states an alternative premise. P4 explicitly argues that moral personhood arises from biological humanity plus developmental potential, not current consciousness. And the fetus is a person because it has a human organism actively developing towards maturity, even without current experiences. Also, I like the concession that you fucking did earlier about the developmental process. And your objection doesn't engage P4; it just replaces it with your own standard.
Wait, what was the concession? Which is
what's in question. Hold on, I'll tell you the concession after we conclude. So your objection doesn't engage P4; it just replaces it with your own standard of consciousness to refute P4, and you need to prove why consciousness must be the standard. Like, that's what's in question. And the child analogy is analogous in P4's framework because the kid currently is an adult but will become one. What I value is a human with consciousness, but P4's response is a child already has consciousness. So your analogy conflates two distinct cases. A child with actual consciousness exists now, and the fetus potential consciousness exists later. But the proper analogy for P4's preconscious fetus is like a preconscious child in a temporary coma. And we don't kill comatose children because they lack current quality. We protect them because they are persons in development, you fucking dumb fuck. So your objection sidesteps this by redefining the person that they require consciousness, which P4 never fucking accepts in the first place. P4 does not argue that we value the fetus because it will gain consciousness later, you dumb fuck, because you're talking about like current consciousness. It argues that the fetus is already a person due to its nature / potential, so killing it is a fucking is killing a person, and the consciousness isn't a source of value, it's a symptom of the underlying human personhood. So P4 like values. So like, for example, we value like Van Gogh painting because it is Van Gogh, not because it currently delivers like, whose mic is that, aesthetic pleasure. And if it were hidden and evolved, it wouldn't experience appreciation, yet it still has value. And the pain priority argument ignores the rights to fucking theory. So you argue that the mother's going through pain, why prioritize a future potential over actual suffering? And the P4's rebuttal here is that if the fetus is a person, its rights to life is a negative trait. Duty not to kill, you fucking idiot. This is like
your position is that it's more plausible or probable.
Wait, official, chill.
So official. So this retard. So my position here, what he fucking so badly misconstrued it, is that I'm more propositionally justified in the belief that abortion, okay, is morally wrong. Yes. So,
okay. Wait, why do you get muted?
Yeah, so we are not gonna do this perma-abuse shit where you just mute me every single time you don't like the interruption. I let you interrupt me.
Because you niggas keep talking over me.
Wait,
I was also serving me that you...
Don't do that. I'm not gonna do
that. You gotta chill because I'm mid-point, and I was also serving me during the point. You gotta chill.
You interrupted me mid-point. You interrupted me mid-point. What the fuck? You interrupted me mid-point. You interrupted me mid-point.
All right, just let me finish up, and then we can conclude, bro. So if the fetus is a person, its rights to life is a negative trait, duty not to kill. That's a principle I'm appealing to. And the mother pain creates a positive claim, duty to relieve suffering. And so the rights frameworks it prioritizes negative rights. We don't kill one person to harvest organs and save like 5 suffering patients, and we don't kill the depressed teen to spare the parents' anguish. Thus, even severe pain doesn't justify killing an innocent fucking person. And your objection that, well, consciousness defines personhood, it doesn't refute P4. And so, yeah, your analogy also fails. So in conclusion, my objection so P4 never claims to value future consciousness. It just values current ontological status. You never refuted this, and your consciousness-based view is a competing premise, not a logical disproof of P4. And P4 can coherently define its framework, for example, with coma analogies, and that those never went refuted. So the whole argument here, for the sake of the recording, to fucking clarify, for the sake of the goddamn fucking recording, from P4. Hold on. Give me one fucking second. Give me 1 second, chat. Yeah, from P4, any entity with such a mechanism must be treated as a full moral person from the point the mechanism is activated. And so intentionally interrupting this causal mechanism is morally equivalent to destroying a person. Abortion intentionally interrupts this causal mechanism. Therefore, abortion is morally equivalent to destroying a person. And that's a modest ponus. And so destroying a person is morally wrong. Therefore, abortion is morally wrong. I believe that follows from P6 to P5 to P1 to P2 to P3 to P4. It's modest opponents. So I think we can conclude, bro. Like,
Yeah, one thing before we conclude, because you said some that I think you didn't say before, but the thing that I'm just trying to get on with some ontological status, and yeah, again, you misrepresented my point like 3 times. And what P4 also states, which I'll explain the conclusion, but for the P4, one last thing. I'll explain the conclusion, don't you worry. So, in the P4, right? P4, again...
You don't like the P4.
Yeah, P4 is in itself. You still didn't justify the conclusion to why it's wrong. You just said that it has value, which I already refuted. Already engaged with that point, right? So P4 still falls apart. You're not even realizing it after 5 minutes of ramble. You made 5 minutes of ramble per every speech, and you still weren't able to see that. So now we can conclude, when you finally realized that you didn't justify the conclusion that you were arguing for. You forgot the conclusion you were arguing for. You're so lost. You brought a boxing glove to a gunfight. You're genuinely so lost in this conversation. Like, this is crazy.
Wait, just to be clear, you don't think I gave a you don't think I gave a justification as to why we should value P4?
Wait,
are you
sorry,
gonna die on that hill?
My mom's was talking. My mom's was talking. What did you say? On which hill?
So just before Yo, Noism, is this your student?
That's crazy. Don't ever say that shit ever again. But anyways,
hey, what you mean by okay? Yeah, so I already gave the argument for P4, so I'll just give another one as to why we should hold to P4's moral value, and this is the substantive view of personhood, which I already laid out multiple times. And the core claim here is that humans have an intrinsic value by virtue of their nature, being rational organisms, not just their current capabilities. For example, we have a temporarily comatose patient as a person because they are still a human being, not because they are currently consciousness. And why that gives P4 value is that a fetus is biologically continuous with the comatose patient. Both are the same kind of entity at different stages. Denying P4 versus arbitrary lines such as consciousness starts at 24 weeks, which devalues humans in vulnerable states such as dementia and coma. Okay, so potentiality is active, not hypothetical. People
I already refuted this 5 times, bro.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, we can conclude. You lost. This nigga's ass.
Alright, sure.
Bro, did not refute that. Hey.
He did not refute that shit, Infinity. Oh, God.
This is supposed to be here, bro. Oh, my God.
The judge, hey, I ain't gonna lie. I guess I don't have all do one. Who's the judge, man?
There was no judge.
There was no judge, bro. There was no judge.
Pussy, who did
that wasn't you, cuz.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, I'm not playing,
guy.
No, he's not
What's up, cuz?
Anyways.
Hey, how you been, Ryan?
Wait, so, oh my God, bro. Wait, are we concluding or not, nigga? What the fuck?
Yes, you are, nigga. We said this already.
Yeah, man.
Alright, bet. So, my conclusion is just gonna be pretty simple. His argument, or the thing that I contested, was P4. P4 has stated that if, right, this thing has biological properties or human-like biological properties, would essential predicates or causal predicates for the rationality in conjunction, then it is true that the fetus is morally valuable. And now the case is, right, I can even grant that there is some moral value to the fetus, but it is true that I would... Wait, can this nigga shut up, bro? Anyways... So, in a case that there is a mother who's being harmed, right, and her actual current experiences are being negative in comparison to the ones which are going to happen in the future, obviously I'm going to take the ones which are happening currently than the ones in the future if they both share the human-like properties which you talked about, right? So, in a case, right, where a mother is getting shot in the leg, right, and she tries to defend herself or some shit like that, that's also going to be okay. But do you know what's even crazy? Is that in both cases, we're taking that they have current rationality. Imagine the rationality, which is going to be like, this person gains sentience tomorrow or some shit, and then my mother has to stop it if she's getting shot in the leg, right? Obviously, that's even going to be way worse for you, right? And I never even said that the standard to which I judge moral value is current rationality. I just said that I value current rationality way more than the potential rationality. So that's one thing, and the thing which I
what the fuck was that? Like, I don't mean to interrupt, but what the fuck was that look like? That little pause was that?
Yeah, my mom's tweaking.
Oh, okay, you got it. Alright, go my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, my mom's tweaking, bro. I'm sorry, but so I have to wrap this shit up, and then I have to go.
Go ahead, bro.
So basically, that's the one. 2, I already refuted the child analogy point. The child analogy, which is gonna get to like a adult. Even What the fuck? Yeah, obviously I'm saying that that's something is gonna become adult in the future,
Don't
but
let
that
the
is
other
not
voice
currently
speak
an
for you.
adult. So that's a false analogy that you gave,
Show
right?
them
That's
who
false
you are.
equivalence, and I'm not just even gonna engage with that any further. The thing which you also said, deontological, some ontological existence or ontological
Bro,
nature.
that
You
shit
also
was
said some
not
bullshit
rhetorical,
about.
dude. That shit was not rhetorical.
Hey, stop all that
Yeah,
dick
Paula,
riding.
Paula,
Stop
chill,
all
Paula.
that
Hey,
dick
shut up.
riding.
You got man, you talk too much, nigga. Let me finish.
What the
Fuck.
fuck? Damn, all that dick riding. You not tired? I ain't embarrassed. Go on. That shit was
So,
not
anyways,
rhetorical,
Finish.
nigga.
Okay,
You finna
okay,
get beat
stop,
for
stop,
wait,
that.
hold
yeah,
on.
nigga
Let's
interrupted
see
my
if you
whole
let's
flow.
see if you
Even though I have to
rhetorical.
go in like 1 minute, nigga
I
just
just
because
need
I'm
to
a
free
whole
go.
flow,
Hey,
just
free to
because you
go.
wanted to
Hey,
say it's not rhetorical.
hurry up, little bro. Come
Like,
on.
holy fuck.
Come on.
Hurry up, bro.
So,
No, he's.
anyways, I already engaged with the ontological point. The ontological
No, the
point was
fuck you did
just
not.
pretty dog shit. And the motherfucker made the oak tree example. Oak tree example was also disanalogous because you're not gonna say something is gonna be oak tree now, but it's gonna be oak tree in the future, right? And
Yeah.
your conclusion, and what's the worst of
What
all
the
of this is that
fuck?
that's
Hey,
crazy. That's crazy. That's
man.
genuinely
Y'all
crazy.
took you to the
Your
eye test. I did right. I did right. Free go ahead. I apologize.
yeah. Yeah. No worries, man. No worries. I love you, man. But anyways,
Me too, man.
P4 still doesn't establish the conclusion. Your conclusion is, and you even agreed to this on rec, is that it is immoral to abort, right? It is immoral to abort. And that was the proposition you were willing to defend. But the conclusion that you gave was that fetus was morally valuable. That is like the
No, it's
worst
not.
thing that I could have ever read and heard in my entire life. You even didn't even track your own proposition that you were willing to defend.
What
That
the
is
fuck?
crazy.
Okay,
So
finish.
I refuted
Finish up.
refuted all of those. So those were the major points. Yeah, that's gonna
Yo,
be my
Apollo.
conclusion. Your ass, you got dog
Alright,
walked.
Yeah,
you can
that was
shut the
All right,
fuck
trash,
up.
dude. That
can
was
I
like actually
conclude for
Okay,
embarrassing
Tron?
okay,
bullshit.
Can I
okay,
conclude
okay.
for Tron?
Yo, so guys, I want everyone to read the chat. So what does the
Yes,
conclusion
sir.
say? What does the conclusion say here?
I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. I got like a B in reading, but
Therefore,
I can't really
abortion is
read that.
morally wrong. All right, free to go. You're a fucking idiot. You cannot track shit. So I'm gonna conclude now, nigga. Daddy's gonna conclude. So P4 just
Ooh.
asserts that any entity with an active causal mechanism for personhood has a full moral status now. And that implies that the fetus is a person with a right to live, and that's the deontological constraint. Holy shit, I said that terribly. And
Yeah, I
rights
know.
violations such as killing persons are categorically wrong, regardless of consequences. And he never refuted that. And his objection focuses on comparing harms, like the mother's current suffering, outweighs the fetus's future potential, which I never even talked about. And I said, but P4 rejects this via Unitarianism. Calculus, you fucking retard. Your analogies didn't refute P4. For example, the shot in the leg fucking self-defense analogy, because your claim is if a mother is shot in the leg, for example, defending herself, even fatally, is justified. But the P4 response here is that the analogy misrepresents abortion, you fucking idiot. Because in self-defense, you target the aggressor, the shooter. In abortion, the fetus is an innocent and non-aggressive entity. You fucking idiot. And P4's ethical rule here is killing an innocent person is never justified to relieve suffering. For example, we don't kill a fucking comatose patient to harvest organs for 5 fucking dying children. You even granted this, you fucking moron. You're so shit, nigga. So valuing current rational over potentiality is not the fucking claim here, because the current rationality, the mother's potentiality of the rationality of the fucking fetuses is not a relevant objection. Because P4's objection here is that rationality isn't the source of moral fucking status. Human nature is. I justify that you never attack the justification. For example, a temporarily irrational human, for example, a fucking Alzheimer's patient, still has rights, and the fetus is a rationally developing human, and it's in its nature, and it's fixed. So destroying it means destroying a fucking person. And the analogy about the child isn't the current adult. When you're talking about valuing a child as a future adult, doesn't justify valuing a fetus as a future person. But the P4 clarification that you misrepresented here is that the fetus isn't a future person, is a person now at an immature stage, you fucking idiot. So a better analogy here would be, well, killing a 10-year-old isn't wrong because they'll be an adult. It's wrong because they are already a person. This is how bad you fucking shadowbox the fucking core claim here.
That argument is so
I ain't gonna lie,
ass.
bro. Ryan, wash your dishes, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
So P4 doesn't care about bond comparisons. P4 is actually just killing innocent persons is intrinsically wrong. The consequences, even extreme suffering, doesn't override this, you fucking idiot. Because your objection assumes ethics should minimize net suffering, and P4 assumes ethics should uphold the absolute rights, which is the ontology. So this is why you can't refute P4 with its suffering-based arguments. To P4, your position sounds like, well, killing this innocent is permissible because it makes others happier. But that's just not what P4 is. And for the other points that
The
you never
argument
fucking
is
attack.
ass. That argument is so ass.
Bro, you don't even understand the art.
This I do understand, but I just told you it's ass. Like clearly on strength, I
You
said
just
it's
told me is
ass.
that
That's
they already understand it.
Yo, wait, Ryan, bro, there's a cockroach
how
by
can
the
I
red
come to that
pot, bro.
conclusion?
What?
What?
King Junior.
Who do I
finish.
believe
Wait, I'm not
won?
even done concluding, nigga.
Yeah.
I am
Yes,
not
you
Oh,
even.
you're
are,
not
fuck
done?
nigga. You finished. You're not
No,
done.
nigga.
Well, fuck.
Ah, well,
No.
chill, right. Let him go, right.
Chill. Doesn't refute P4 because the mother's actual suffering today, what he brought up, this is completely irrelevant. Like the fucking suffering of the mother is just irrelevant to the entire argument. He never substantiated why it would be relevant. But the personhood is based on ontology. He never refuted this, not functionality. And the claim here is that human beings have intrinsic moral worth by virtue of their nature of beings and identity. He never refuted this. Actually, he granted that. So I use a sleeping analogy, which he never refuted. A sleeping person has no current experiences because everyone in this call fucking heard this nigga yapping about current experiences. But the reductor here is that we don't kill them because their nature, a rational being, remains. Whoa. Similarly, a fetus is a rational being in development. You fucking retard. And its nature is fixed at conception. His objection didn't refute that because it assumes moral value comes only from current experiences. But P4's framework explicitly rejects that, which I justified, and he never fucking refuted that. And secondly, I was using potentiality in the actual metaphysical sense. So the claim that the fetus is an impossible future person is already a person at an immature stage, and the causal mechanism isn't a prediction, it's an active intrinsic property defining its identity. So he even fucking granted this. And the acorn example is fucking sound because if you take an acorn, right, an acorn is just going to be an oak tree organism, just immature. We don't say it might become an oak. And I never said an acorn tree is an acorn tree like this dumbass nigga Free said, but I said an acorn tree is an oak tree organism, just immature. We don't say it might become an oak. We say it's an oak, but growing. And his objection doesn't refute this. It just treats the fetus as a vessel for the future value. But P4 sees it as already embodying that fucking value. It's a causal mechanism. He's fucking retarded. So the moral duties arise from the being, not from a fucking experiencing, you dumb fuck Indian bitch. We have duties to beings because of what they are, human persons, not because of what they feel. So killing a temporarily comatose person is wrong even if they feel no pain. That's the fucking reducto, you dumb fuck retard. I hope you fucking hear this, you Indian bitch. Thus, the mother's suffering is real, but it doesn't justify killing an innocent person. You fucking idiot. You never established why that justifies killing an innocent person. Just as we wouldn't kill a fucking newborn to relieve parental distress. You don't. Your objection just doesn't refute that.
I'm back. So what did you say?
It just prioritizes suffering relief. But P4 framework prioritizes. Chill. But P4 framework prioritizes the duty not to kill. So his objection doesn't just refute anything, bro. Y'all can.
You just wait. You just wait. What's an